On the Bell Canada layoffs of 4,800 people across the country, your Heritage Minister accused Bell Canada of breaking its promise to invest in local news after receiving $40 million in regulatory relief funding. What is your view of that company's layoffs, and what is your commitment to future government support with that company?
I'm furious. This is a garbage decision by a corporation that should know better. So yeah, I'm pretty pissed off about what's just happened.
Alright, so for today's video, we're going to be talking about that little outburst that you saw from Justin Trudeau there, as this might be one of the things I actually agree with him on, which is surprising. Now, the outburst in question was about Bell Media announcing that they're going to be laying off nearly 5,000 individuals to save money. Apparently, they're at a they're really losing a lot. And it states that this includes Bell's largest workforce restructuring initiative in nearly 30 years, reducing approximately 4,800 positions, or 9% of employees in 2024, and driving the in-year cost savings of 150 to 200 mil, or 250 million annualized. Now, this comes right after we just heard CBC going to be firing over 1,000 of its own employees, again, to save the same sort of thing. Yet it seemed Bell was doing some fishy business by taking money and then not holding up on its promise.
What do you make of Bell's excuse for these cuts as the CRTC not moving fast enough regarding recent regulatory changes as it relates to C11?
Well, I think when we are providing financing to Bell, which is what the federal government has done, it has to come with a requirement. And what they've simply done is taken that money and put it in their pocket rather than providing the supports for newsrooms across the country, for professional journalists. And so I would turn it back really on the federal government. When the federal government gives money without any conditions at all, then we see the results of what we've seen today, which is thousands of layoffs. It's tragic, it's unfortunate. And what the federal government needs to do is start showing leadership. First off, any funding that is going to Bell or any other corporation needs to come with the key guarantees in terms of jobs and maintaining professional journalism. So we have a federal government that is simply asleep. And it is time that they woke up and did the things that are going to make a difference to maintain and enhance professional journalism in this country.
Now, with this announcement, they said that the reason that this happened was because of the CRTC. As it states, the CRTC held a hearing late last year exploring whether streaming services should be asked to make an initial contribution to the Canadian content system to help level the playing field with local companies. The Commission hopes to implement new rules in late 2024. But the Bell executive said that the company needs immediate relief, which could come from a fund it has proposed that would see streamers subsidize local or national news. We hope they do, but we can't wait 2 years for that to happen, so then you see actions like this today. Bell has fought other regulatory decisions over the past year that it says makes things harder for its struggling broadcast division. However, after this announcement happened, we find out that Bell Media announces record ad sales for the Super Bowl that just happened. As it said, last year Bell reached an audience of 8.6 million viewers for its broadcast, a 6% increase from 2022. Overall, 17.6 million unique viewers watched for at least part of the game, a figure that is also up from 2022. And they stated that according to the company, the ad inventory is nearly sold out, which leaves advertisers with limited options to promote their brands during the big game telecast. So they're saying that they're struggling, yet they're making one of their biggest sales or years in terms of advertisement and revenue with the Super Bowl that, you know, arguably was one of the biggest things to be on air so far this year. And this kind of harpens back to the CBC CEO talking about how, oh, this is out of her hands. She doesn't decide whether bonuses happen or not. So, you know, they're losing money, but they're still giving bonuses. These guys are apparently losing money, but are still breaking records in terms of ads sold. I don't know. But it goes on to say, out of Bell Media's 103 radio stations, the company also has plans to divest 45 of them to 7 buyers. And Trudeau actually talks about how this is a bit of a problem. And again, like I said, I agree with him on this exact point.
We've seen over the past years journalistic outlets, radio stations, small community newspapers bought up by corporate entities who then lay off journalists, change the offering, the quality of offering to people. And then when people don't watch as much or engage as much, the corporate entity says, oh, see, they're not profitable anymore. We're going to sell them off.
Now, love him or hate him, he's got a point. This is a problem. If you start to sell off more and more radio stations or more news outlets, and they're getting condensed into certain entities or certain groups that hold now majority of all of them, you get stuck and pigeonholed into echo chambers, or basically only getting to see what these people want you to see. So journalism is very important in this aspect, especially when there's a rise of AI. People can fake stuff. There's so much, as they like to say, disinformation and misinformation, which at this point is partially true. You can't always tell what's going on. But now if you don't have multiple sources to kind of look and check and back up, you're kind of stuck to the whims of whatever they present. And this has been happening also with banks, where big banks have been buying up small banks in local areas, and now they're the only ones that you have as options to go to take money out. Well, this is essentially what's going to happen here, where these will be the only certain outlets that you can go to for news. And as reporters push back at the Liberals in regards to this monopoly situation, they just kind of threw up their hands and said, oh, we've done what we've done. It's now up to the CRTC to handle this, and walked away from any further questions.
What is the consequence? You talk about these companies that have this privilege of enjoying near monopoly status in telecommunications. As part of that agreement, they are going to produce news and local news, and now they're walking away from it, and your government doesn't do anything, neither does the CRTC.
Well, the CRTC does have the power to react because they do have obligation. Today I'm reacting to the sad news, and I'm saying that we have already gave and did a lot of work to help those broadcasting companies. There's still a few months to go through the regulatory process at the CRTC, and we hope that those big companies are going to hold their end of the bargain.
What if they don't? What if they don't?
We need to subsidize news if they're just going to fire local journalists.
Now, this was sad to see because she started off her press conference talking about how this is a sad day for all these people losing their jobs, and how, they got $40 million and are walking away and they wish they did more. And then when the harder questions get pushed back on her, saying like, well, what are you going to do when they do this kind of thing? They say, oh, well, we've done what we can, and now it's up to the CRTC, and then just walks away. And, that really sucks because, again, as I stated, journalism is very important. Because if we don't have good journalists, we end up getting articles like this garbage, where the Toronto Star is reporting significant concerns raised about security at Pierre Poilievre's home, internal documents show. And this article just simply goes on to talk about how Pierre wants to spend $16,000 to build a new fence on his property to provide safety and privacy, as if that's not what fences are designed to do. Like, as if that's not what somebody would want a fence for. But it's sad because when you actually have real journalistic stories coming out that are important, I feel, to the public in communities surrounding certain areas, you don't get the coverage because it's fringe news outlets like Rebel News or True North that are covering these stories. But then when established media picks it up, they kind of Mickey Mouse the story and don't actually have anybody on the street to check up on it, like this one, for example.
A number of teachers and other staff walked off the job at a North Oshawa elementary school yesterday, citing safety concerns. Some parents who were demonstrating outside L.C. McGill Public School say the problem is bullying by a few students. The Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario confirms more than 20 employees walked off the job, and they have the right to refuse unsafe work under the Occupational Health and Safety Act. The Durham District School Board says it is actively addressing concerns that have been raised at the school, but parents say the bullying has been an ongoing problem. The Durham District School Board responded, stating there is no ongoing safety issue at L.C. McGill Public School.
Now, again, you can get more information if you watch Rebel News, who actually had David Menzies on the street talking to the parents, trying to get some confirmation from the school board. Yet, if you just listen to the CTV thing, it states that 20 teachers walked off the job while their union supported them, and that the school board was looking into things, but then said the school board stated there was no cases of bullying happening. Well, then what is somebody to believe? That these teachers are just walking off for the sake of walking off? These parents are just protesting for the sake of protesting? Or that maybe there is some bullying happening and maybe you should look into it? Or this other story that came out from the True North and Rebel News about a 50-year-old man who's been going to multiple different pools in the GTA and in Ontario and swimming with underage children because he identifies as a 13-year-old and he identifies as a girl and goes into the female's change room. Guess what? No other mainstream outlets or established outlets are covering this story. But then you have American network like the New York Post, the Post Millennial, Fox News, which again then gets picked up by other outlets. Like I said, Megyn Kelly, Joe Rogan even saw it, talked about it on his podcast.
Did you see this? I think he's a professor somewhere in Canada. He's a 50-year-old man who identifies as a teenage girl, and so he's competing with teenage girls in swimming.
I've not seen this.
And they let him change in the same changing room.
Yeah, those
as
things.
the
See, these are the
teenage
things that
girls.
matter.
So they let this 50-year-old man whip his out
Yeah,
and be naked
that's wild.
in the presence of teenage girls. So they like put curtains up to try to shield it. 50-year-old trans swimmer shared locker room while competing against teens. The girls were terrified. And look at that crazy.
Yeah, this is.
This is so nuts that
I also
anybody would
like when
allow that.
Someone might be listening to this and go, "Oh, come on, this is like an isolate." Yeah, but even if it happens once, don't you think that's too much?
And as I mentioned, this guy's been around the GTA. He's been in Barrie, he's been in Scarborough, he's been in Orangeville, at all these different arenas to swim, community centers, and no other outlets are talking about this except for Rebel News. But then they're seen as controversial because it's a sensitive topic, apparently, saying a man is a man, not a woman. And so they're seen as fringe journalists and don't have the credentials, I guess, that way. But love to hear from you guys. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks so much.